Ielts Classic Listening Comprehensive Test 3. Instructions. 1. You will listen to an audio recording of all sections of this test and answer questions on what you hear. 2. You will have some time to look at the questions before listening to the audio recording of that section or subsection. 3. The audio will start playing immediately after familiarizing yourself with section questions. 4. You will be answering questions as you listen to the audio because it will be played only once. 5. Immediately after the audio recording for all sections, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Section 1. You will hear a tourist talking to a Mombasa tour company agent to organize a tour of the popular sights of Mombasa city. First, you will have 15 seconds to look at questions 1 to 5. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays. Mombasa tour.
Good morning. I am Elijah Kamani, a tourist from Kisii Highlands. Is that Mombasa Tours Company?
Yes, please, it is Mombasa Tours. How can I help?
I'm coming to Mombasa with my family, and we'd like to tour attractive sites in the city. We just require information on the best way to do this.
Okay, I'll see if I can help. To begin with, when are you coming and for how long?
We're leaving Kisumu at the end of February. We will be staying with friends in Nairobi for a week, so we'll arrive in Mombasa around 10th March.
And how many people?
I'm coming with my brother and our parents.
And do you know what kind of attractive features you intend to see while in Mombasa?
Not really, we just want to see the main sites, historical places I guess. The places that Mombasa is famous for.
Well, as you only have a short period of time, the best way to do that is probably by bus tour. The tour costs 3,500 shillings for adults and 2,000 shillings for children for the day.
What time does it start?
Basically the ticket is valid for the whole day. The first bus departs at 8 a.m., but buses depart every 30 minutes throughout the day up until 5 p.m. Sorry, I mean 7 p.m. So you can start and accomplish whenever you want within those intervals.
So, do you have to stay on the same bus the whole time?
No. It is a hop-on, hop-off service. So, you can leave at whichever stop you like. You can then stay there for the length you like, and then get back on another bus when it arrives.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, take 15 seconds to look at questions 6 to 10. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays.
What sites are enjoyable on the tour then, if I may ask?
That depends on which route you choose. There are 3 routes including the Malindi, Digo, and Lunga routes. You will have the opportunity to enjoy many attractions. To start with, the main attractions on the Malindi route are Snake Park, the Vasco da Gama Pillar, and Jade Ruins.
I'm not too worried about Snake Park, but I know my parents would enjoy the Vasco da Gama Pillar, so we'd better see that. What about the other routes?
The most famous places on the Digo route are Fort Jesus and the sandy beaches.
Ah, both of those would be interesting to see. And the Lunga route?
We have Mwaluganj Elephant Sanctuary, Kizit Marine National Park, and Shimba Hills National Reserve on that route.
I'd like to see Mwaluganj Elephant Sanctuary, but I don't think we'll have time for shopping, and I don't know Shimba Hills National Reserve, so we'll not go on that route. So, we'd probably choose the Malindi route. What do we need to do about booking?
If you want to book, you can do that with one of our customer service operators on the phone. Or otherwise, you can go to our website and book. Other people just arrive on the day and purchase a ticket on the bus, but if it's full you may not be able to get a seat.
It's probably best if we book in advance then, so I'll do it on the internet in a few weeks when we know exactly what dates we'll be there.
Okay, well it can get very busy, so it's probably the best time to book is at least a week before the tour. But you still have about 4 weeks before you leave, so you have plenty of time to think about it.
Okay, thank you very much. You have been of great help.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers for questions 1 to 10. Section 2. You will hear Dan Jason, an economist expert, giving a talk about world economic status. First, you will have 15 seconds to look at questions 11 to 15. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays.
World economic status. Throughout the last number of decades, the developing world has created immense economic progress. This could be seen most visibly within the rising trend of incomes and consumption. Between 1945 and 1975, consumption per capita in the developing world went up by nearly 70%. Broader measures of well-being include reduced child mortality, increased lifespan, improved healthcare, increased standards of education, and high-level technology across the majority of the growing economies. The disparity of inequality is rampant and questionable in the global eye. In spite of improved education, there are challenges of staggering poverty across the world. It's shameful that over 1 billion people in the developing world live in very poor financial conditions. In fact, they lack basic needs of shelter, food and clothing, and sometimes they live on charity donations and government handouts. Surprisingly, others have no source and live in the streets under unbearable conditions. Progress in raising average incomes should not divert attention from this immense and current weight of financial condition. The same is true of the broader measures of health. Lifespan in many geographical areas is very low, with an average of 50 years. Most children within the developing world lack access even to primary education, whereas, within the developed world, something less than universal enrollment is not acceptable. It's a common factor within the developing world regarding the variation of the income distribution. This is true from region to region, country to country, and even location to location within a similar wide geographical identity.
Before you listen to the rest of the talk, take 15 seconds to look at questions 16 to 20. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays.
Sub-Saharan Africa accounts for a smaller, however still an extremely disproportionate share of world financial share. The poor are typically targeted in rural areas with high population densities. Often, the issues of financial deficit and increased population and poor setting are entangled. Earlier patterns of development and pressure of a pace due to increasing populations meant that a lot of the poor bore areas of acute environmental degradation. Additionally, the burden of financial conditions falls heavily on certain groups. Women, in general, are deprived. This can be because of many factors. For instance, in poor families, they regularly shoulder addition of more work than men, are less educated, very vulnerable to natural calamities, and have less access to remunerative activities. Children, to suffer unduly, and the future quality of their lives is compromised by inadequate nutrition, health care, and education. Reducing debilitating financial conditions is the basic objective of economic development in any country. Then, economic development contains a way to travel. Knowledge regarding the poor is crucial if governments are to adopt sound development methods and simpler policies for offensive financial conditions. It encompasses knowledge about what percentage poor are there? Wherever do they live? What are their precise economic circumstances? Response to these queries is the start toward understanding the impact of economic policies on the poor. Are there any questions?
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers for questions 11 to 20. Section 3. You will hear a biology professor teaching students about the process of photosynthesis. First, you will have 10 seconds to look at questions 21 to 23. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays.
Good morning, students. Welcome to this interesting lecture on the process of photosynthesis, which is the mother of green life. I would like you to look at the sketch provided as we proceed. A process by which photoautotrophs convert the energy derived from the sun into usable chemical energy is defined as photosynthesis. Light, water, chlorophyll, and carbon dioxide are the essential needs for this natural process. Carbon dioxide within the atmosphere enters the plant leaf through stomata. Stomata are tiny pores within the leaves and stems of plants. They facilitate the transfer of various gases and water vapor. Water enters the leaves, primarily through the roots via stems and finally to the leaves. As daylight falls on the leaf surface, the chlorophyll, which is the green pigment present in the plant leaf, traps the energy in it. Oxygen and hydrogen gas are produced by changing water using the energy obtained from the sun. The process is redundant at night and oxygen is released to the atmosphere as hydrogen is further reserved.
Before you listen to the rest of the talk, take 20 seconds to look at questions 24 to 30. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays.
Hydrogen is combined with carbon dioxide to create food for the plant, while oxygen is released through the stomata to the atmosphere as a waste product. The electrons from the chlorophyll molecules and protons from the water molecules facilitate chemical reactions within the cell. These reactions produce adenosine triphosphate that provides energy for cellular reactions, and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide diphosphate that is essential in plant metabolism. While we tend to absorb oxygen and give out carbon dioxide to provide energy, plants absorb carbon dioxide and give out oxygen to produce energy. Photosynthesis has several benefits, not only for just photoautotrophs. It is also important for humans and for animals. The chemical energy stored in plants is transferred to animals and humans after they consume plant products, such as leaves, fruits, roots, or stems. It additionally helps in maintaining a standard level of oxygen and carbon dioxide within the atmosphere. Most of the oxygen present in the atmosphere can be attributed to this process, which additionally means that respiration and photosynthesis go together.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers for questions 1 to 30. Section 4. You will hear an economist talking about demand for market-focused education. First, you will have 30 seconds to look at questions 31 to 35. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays.
Demand for market-focused education. Hello everybody. Education may be one of the best assets children can inherit from their parents. Indeed, majority of parents are celebrated to suffer vast debts to help their children get an education. The drive to make these sacrifices and our population growth have created a huge demand for education. Kenya remains on the global map for promoting, supporting, and enhancing market-focused education as a driver for economic growth, development, and sustenance. This demand is arguably reciprocated by mismatched supply that's not centered on developing employable skills, and the output is idler graduates into the already full marketplace. Ironically, whereas this is the situation in developing economies across the world, it is in the same economies that trained workers are in high demand. Indeed, rising economies are not any longer hoping on low-cost labor to fuel exports-driven economies. The demand for a staff capable of doing talent-intensive jobs that need quality qualifications is growing steady. This has ignited intense campaign in restructuring education systems to respond to direct labor market demands and specifications. By so doing, it is hoped to reduce rampant mismatch between earned degrees and required degrees. By earning a required degree, relevant to the current economic models, massive joblessness is bound to decrease exponentially.
Before you listen to the rest of the audio, take 15 seconds to look at questions 36 to 40. Listen carefully and answer the questions as the audio plays.
As part of the response to the demand for relevant education, the Kenyan education system has restructured into a responsive expert manufacturing field with targeted skills. The system is slowly shifting from the traditional mass graduate production with no market to absorb the graduands. Studies have shown that no country within the world do major socio-economic transformation without the contribution of experienced manpower. Kenya appears to be cognizant of this reality, going by the large budget allocation created for education every year. There is a strong case for standardization and regulatory framework that will ensure delivery of high-quality teaching and research whose product is work-ready experts. Lack of adequate resources, poor coaching infrastructure, and facilities continue to be a challenge to be faced. If we can turn our institutions of higher learning into factories of talent that are readily marketable locally and to other countries, human capital development would become a key economic driver in our country. The government needs to partner with all stakeholders and come up with holistic policy interventions that make use of best practices to promote practical skills and make education more effective in the short and long term. This also calls for accrediting and streamlining the requirements of new and existing education that should look beyond profits. It should be the kind of education system designed to equipping students with the knowledge, skills, and competencies that enhance their employability both locally and internationally. With focused restructuring, stakeholder involvement, standardization of college admissions, and infrastructure support, the ambition to be a global export of labor across the world will yield everlasting impact in the state economy. It will serve as a double-edged sword to solve the local chronic calamity of lack of jobs, and probably enhance export of highly skilled professional experts across the global job market.
That is the end of test audio recordings. You now have half a minute to check your answers for questions 31 to 40. Then have 10 minutes to transfer all your answers to the answer sheet.
Thank you for trusting Glovinets for your learning needs. This audio was designed and presented by the information technology experts of CLARION Technology. CLARION Technology offers services including website design, e-learning content, voiceover, animations, e-commerce solutions, mobile apps, hospital management software designs, and many exciting IT solutions. For more information, contact us on www.clarionwebmasters.com or email us on info@clarionwebmasters.com.